Good morning, Paul and Bhargav. It's Wednesday, the 12th of July. Here's a heads up brief for today. For the Southeast Asia production, we covered 20 issues. In North Asia, we covered 9, and for Australasia and the Pacific Islands, we covered 6. In South Asia, we covered 21 issues, plus the major issues in Europe, Middle East, and Africa.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, Uday. Suratep and I just got back into Thailand last night. Obviously, a bit exhausted. I had the flu concurrently with the back end of the Australian trip and throughout the China trip. But it was wonderful to see China and the infrastructure and the growth there, and of course, other matters of interest. So Beijing continues to be just a thriving, centrally controlled but monolith, as is Shanghai. Incredible to see how their economy is represented in the Western media versus the reality of when you're there. Please go ahead.
Great. So in Thailand, Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha announced that he will quit politics and resign as a member of the United Thai Nation Party yesterday. This comes ahead of the first vote for the Prime Minister tomorrow, where the Move Forward Party will nominate its leader, Pita.
Okay, thanks, Uday. Look, this is really interesting time in the history of Thailand. Obviously, this could go one of several ways. The Senate and other coalitions could form. The Senate could block Move Forward Party. There could be a court case raised or referred by the Election Commission against Kun Pita for media shareholdings, albeit in a now defunct media outlet with no influence. Or it could go smoothly, or a prime minister may not be established tomorrow. Perhaps they need more time to go and wrangle it. But it's a good move that Prayut's realised time's up. You've done your thing. Move aside now and let things progress. Do you have any other theories or feelings on which way it's going to go tomorrow, Uday?
Paul, I think, like you said, it will take some time. I don't think the vote will get resolved tomorrow, and there will be more sessions, and it could be possible that another prime ministerial candidate will be appointed for future votes at this point.
Yep, gotcha. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, let's wait and see.
Yeah. Australia has called on China to disclose the details of its police agreement with the Solomon Islands that it announced yesterday. This is after its concerns over China's growing influence in the South Pacific. According to the agreement, China will be allowed to maintain a police presence in the Solomon Islands until 2025, but the full text has not yet been made public.
Look, it's really interesting that the West, in this case, Australia, actually believes that China needs to declare what it's doing to a sovereign state that very rarely acts openly and ethically with China. Interestingly, the Solomon Islands, if they wanted to declare that, apparently Penny Wong, the Australian Foreign Minister, who flew in to rescue their relationships after 2 decades of ignoring them, automatically assumes that a couple of trips for a couple of days and you have a right to dictate and you have a right to be included. It's kind of archaic to believe that China has a responsibility to inform you of what you're doing. It's frankly none of Australia's business. It's between China and the Solomon Islands. And this kind of arrogance from Australia is what continues to get them into these quagmires where they demand power in a bilateral relationship whereby they think other members of the Pacific Islands, and including the same thing's been happening with Timor-Leste, that they therefore are excluded from entering into multilateral or bilateral relations with other countries. It's a little bit bewildering, actually, especially when Penny Wong's just been over to Timor-Leste stating that, oh, you know, we're now going to listen to Timor and we understand we haven't been doing the right thing by our partner, our newest and nearest neighbour, but now we're going to be open-minded and very visionary, yet they continue to do exactly the same thing they're always doing, and that's think that they have a right to be right and to demand power. So we need to see how monitor China's response to this, or whether they deflect it to Solomon Islands. But I think we can, whatever, whoever, if there is a response, Solomon Islands or China, it's going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah,
Thanks, Uday. Go
yeah,
ahead.
we'll keep an eye out on this. And in the Philippines, governors in Mindanao have called on authorities to address the law and order situation and also to expedite the decommissioning of Moro Islamic Liberation Front members who are still armed ahead of the upcoming local elections this year. There has been a rise in tensions over the last few months and a few firefights between the Moro Islamic Liberation Front and military forces.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm interested to see how this pans out. I'm not sure whether they're going to be able to depower them as quickly and as smoothly as, the unnamed vague authorities that always think about everything from their own perspective hope for. Thank you, Uday.
Yeah. In South Asia, according to preliminary results, the All India Trinamool Congress has won the recent local body elections in West Bengal. The Bharatiya Janata Party secured the second highest number of seats, which are much lower than the Trinamool Congress, and the Indian National Congress came in at the bottom.
Yes, the local body election and the results may not be reflective of national politics, but they do reflect the status of political parties in this particular state, that is West Bengal. People continue to distrust the national parties, that is BJP and the Congress. However, the results also indicate increasing support for the BJP with four digits gain for them. Now, we'll have to see how this develops. BJP has been trying to make inroads into the state for a decade now, and the Trinamool Congress Party has resisted them, including some violent clashes at the ground level. But for businesses, they need to note that the politics remains very volatile in the state.
Great.
Bhargav, just drill in on what you mean by a 4 digits change, will you?
Yes, so the results show that BJP have garnered 1,714 seats, while Congress were reduced to 3-digit seats. Number of seats include 362 seats, as opposed to Trinamool Congress's 8,000 odd seats. So for BJP, that's a major increase.
Okay, thank you.
In Pakistan, the country received $2 billion in financial support from Saudi Arabia yesterday, according to the finance minister.
That doesn't come as a surprise at all, as Pakistan continues to be dependent on their Arab friends, primarily Saudi Arabia. Thank you.
And lastly, Bangladesh and India launched trade transactions in rupees to decrease the reliance of the US dollar and bolster regional currency and trade.
That is an interesting development. Bangladesh continues to demonstrate that it's a very practical and pragmatic player in the world trade, and the switch to Indian rupee is going to benefit India, certainly. And Bangladesh will save on its foreign exchange reserves in dollars. So bilateral trade seems like a very positive development for the bilateral trade and geopolitics as well.
Great.
Yeah, Bhargav, just touch on that. Bhargav, I think it's very interesting that more and more countries are electing to bypass the dollar, because it's more than just a foreign exchange through US dollars. It also is a massive privacy breach, and everything's in favour of American control. But from a geopolitical perspective, India's continuing to become more and more independent, more and more solid, garnering a lot of credibility as a player, not only in Asia Pacific, but globally. Do you see this as a continuing trend? And now I know that you and I are both pretty downbeat on Modi, because the Modi that presents in the media versus the reality of who Modi is behind closed doors is a totally different animal. But is this a good trend, these bilateral currency trades, and also just the way they're expressing themselves geopolitically?
Yes, Paul, I would say this is a positive trend. And more importantly, I would like to highlight two very important terms. India was following a policy of non-alignment earlier. After BJP came into power in 2014, they are following a policy of multi-alignment, in the words of the foreign minister himself, Mr. Jaishankar. Multi-alignment basically means that they are going to follow a pragmatic path wherein they are going to exert and assert their independence geopolitically while aligning with their respective partners and allies based on the issues as well as their interests are concerned, whether in the sphere of geopolitical haggling between Russia or the US, or in terms of procuring or securing their oil interests. For example, India proceeded to trade in yuan with Russia because that was more beneficial for them, while discarding any concerns from the EU or the US. So they are not afraid to align themselves with the partners they prefer, which secures their interests. So these are the two critical terms: non-alignment, which was discarded recently, and multi-alignment, as they see fit.
Well, I think some of the countries in Europe and the West, even NATO members, and of course, a couple of key members from down under of the Five Eyes, could perhaps benefit from taking a little look at both the multi-alignment strategy and also a strategy of maintaining some decorum and neutrality. Thanks, Bhargav. Very enlightening. Cheers.
Yeah. And in Europe, the Secretary General of NATO said that Ukraine will receive an invitation to join the organization when members agree and conditions are met. He also announced a multi-year assistance program for Ukraine that includes weapons and financial aid packages from different countries in the alliance. In response, former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev yesterday said that NATO's military aid to Ukraine brings World War III closer.
That's interesting, Uday. Thank you. Nothing further from my end.
Nor from me. Thank you, Uday.
That's the brief for today. Thanks.